What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about the Xbox because the next major Microsoft exclusive is Hellblade 2, Senua Saga, and the previews for it have now officially come out. The game is releasing in about 45 days, and it sounds like a bunch of gaming journalists and major websites had a chance to sit down and play about an hour of the game, and their reactions have been pretty positive. It sounds like the combat is cool, the graphics are insane, but we're also getting some bad news. The game is officially going to be 30 frames a second, it's only going to be about 6 to 7 hours long, and it's digital only. So let's take a look at how the internet is handling this, and some thoughts on the game itself. Hi, I hope you're having a good day. If you could, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So, what first struck my eye is that people who played the game say that it is definitely a visual masterpiece with some good heavy weight to it. A lot of the first reactions I saw were basically journalists saying that, hey, if you're looking for a very cinematography heavy experience, something that is like an interactive movie, I mean, if we're being a bit disrespectful, you know, the way that some people kind of drag PlayStation games saying they're just interactive movies, well, it sounds like this is pretty much an interactive movie. But here's what kind of struck me is they confirmed the game is going to be 60 frames a second. Multiple sources have chimed in. They've said, hey, the game will only be at 30 FPS on the Xbox Series X and S, and it also has a dynamic resolution, meaning that sometimes it's probably going to dip in resolution so that it can actually put more stuff on screen. That to me sounds like a major negative. Also, the founder of the studio has quit, and the guy who wrote and directed the original Hellblade, he just left the company. I'm sure that's a totally good sign if you're talking about your new game and saying, oh yeah, the guy who invented Hellblade quit when we showed him Hellblade 2. Okay, I mean, I'm editorializing a bit there, but the main people I see, people are getting annoyed because 30 FPS games continues to feel like the big Xbox lie. Like, actually consider it. This is an official statement from Aaron Greenberg, the freaking head of Xbox marketing, right before the Xbox Series X came out. He said 60 frames a second will be the standard output for Xbox games, but the architecture allows us to support up to 120 FPS. Now, you can't help but laugh at this because when I think of the Xbox, even though it's claimed to be the strongest console, I mean, provably and measurably, games run the worst on it. I mean, if you're comparing the two different versions of the Xbox to even just a base model PS5, and that's before the PS5 Pro has even come out, it's kind of funny that games just seem to have so much trouble running on the Xbox, even if they're made by Xbox. I mean, people are just kind of pointing out the obvious. Hellblade 2 runs at 30 FPS. No 60 FPS mode is even in the game. So that also happened with Redfall. That also happened with Starfield. And I guess people are getting a bit irked because they keep saying, oh, it's part of that cinematic experience. I'm sick of these stupid ass executives. You are not making a movie. Having a lower frames per second does not make it more cinematic. I'd prefer they just say they're pushing the Xbox to its limits instead of coming up with this clear BS. I agree with this a lot. I think going into this console generation, I was hoping more for games that had specifically high frame rate and no load times, and we did get one of those. Like, not to be unfair here, but look at any freaking PlayStation 5 exclusive. You can say that the PlayStation 5 isn't powerful enough. I think that is valid. I'm buying a PlayStation 5 Pro just because certain games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are surprisingly blurry. My point is this. If you look at something like Spider-Man or, I don't know, Uncharted Remastered or something like that, those games look, obviously, they're 60 FPS. A lot of times they're 4K. They look incredible. They have ray tracing, and they don't even have frame hiccups. So if I can play as Spider-Man swinging around in New York at 100 miles an hour and still stay at 60 FPS, 90 FPS, 120 FPS, I don't know. It's goofy to me that they cannot find a way to make this work. And a lot of people are basically saying, okay, so what do we do about this? We're doing this because we think that it's good. It'll make it have a more cinematic experience because remember, movies are 24 frames a second. Oh, God. I'm actually seeing a lot of Xbox people say, well, it's a good thing I only play on PC. I gave up on Xbox, or people like this. We got to start building PCs. 30 FPS on Xbox Series X is a joke. These consoles are a joke. And I'm of two minds about this. I think that console gaming will obviously always be the biggest thing on the planet. I think PC gamers kind of forget this, but I mean, keep in mind, console gaming is incredibly easy. I still predominantly game on my consoles, and part of it's because I like collecting trophies and stuff like that and cool exclusives, but a lot of it is that it's just incredibly easy. When I go to the gym and I do a super long, heavy workout and I'm dead exhausted and I come home and eat my protein and take a quick shower or whatever like that, when I sit down, to me personally, as kind of a lazy guy, I don't want to think about, oh, do I need to worry about updating my drivers? Do I need to worry about configuring a new controller support? I like the fact that I pick up this and I can play a game. Now, obviously, I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just talking about my own personal experience, but I just see people talking about the fact that it is cool, the fact that this is such a visually impressive game, but I almost think I'm getting annoyed about the fact that so many of these games now show mo-capped scenes in the trailers. Like, hey, here's the game we're making. Okay, that's great. I'm glad that you have a bunch of studio space and really, like, motion capture looks good in the game itself. I just get annoyed about the fact that they keep just showing off, hey, here's how we made the game. Okay, is the story good? Is the world cool? Here is another part that I feel like people are also not happy with. Combat is now only one-on-one. It's slow-paced and very brutal. Now, in the original game, the first Senua, you could fight multiple people at once. It wasn't super common, but the game also was relatively short. So it made it where when you were playing it, it actually had cool times where you're trying to take on a bunch of weird tree monsters or something simultaneously. So the fact that now they're, in my opinion, kind of downgrading it to only be a series of 1v1s for the entire game, that sounds less exciting. Maybe it'll actually turn out cooler in the game itself, but I think a lot of people are just kind of gawking when you just consider this. Hellblade 2 is $50, digital only, and about 8 hours long. Now, this is definitely one of those things where I finish games typically a little bit faster than they say. Companies will tell me, hey, this game's 20 hours long. A lot of times I'm going to finish it in 15. I think this is going to be 8 hours long on a decent average playthrough. My fear is that, I'm going to sit down to review this and beat it in a single sitting, and there's going to be no replay value. This is a Game Pass project. The more I learn about Hellblade 2, the more it makes sense being $50. Gosh. Times like this, I start to just sort of chew on these articles I keep seeing about how more people are playing old games. That a lot of people, even young people, are playing retro games and stuff. And I do think part of it just comes down to the fact that old games are not just cheap as hell, but even if you're playing a bunch of PlayStation 4 stuff, or if you're playing the older Gears of War games on Game Pass, they run great, they look great. A lot of those things still have online. You can still play the old Gears games online and they're still fun. I do not blame anybody for going back and playing old games. They don't need patches. A lot of times if you're playing something that's truly old or cartridge based or playing it on emulators, it's just baffling to me that games seem to somehow keep running worse instead of better. And especially because the internet is going to break when Jez Corden, he's talked about the fact that apparently Hellblade 2 could be coming to the PS5, which means that when Hellblade 2 comes to the PlayStation 5 and gets ported to the PS5 Pro, it's going to run at 60 FPS. Actually consider that. What happens when Xbox games run the worst on Xbox? What happens when the Xbox Series X is the system you play your games on that has the worst frame rates, the weirdest, stupid UI? What happens when PC plays it better? When emulation plays it better? When PS5 plays it better? I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing about this because I think I'm still excited for Hellblade 2, but I definitely am. The biggest detriment to me is that one-on-one combat. That to me, I was hoping for like big sloppy fights and I'm having to try and like, participate in crazy weird feudal clashes in this ancient era. So it just being a bunch of duels, 5 hours of puzzle solving and duels. We'll see how it turns out. I'm going to go into it with an open mind, but tell me what you guys think about Hellblade 2. Are you excited for this new 30 FPS Xbox game? I guess we all have to play it on, everybody has to just play it on PC. Just Xbox PC Game Pass. Yay. But I love you guys very much. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Oh man, stop showing mocap suits in your previews. Look, personally, or movie trailers. In the IGN preview for this game, that kept showing like all these different movies. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, that's great. I'm not playing a movie. I'm playing a game. Okay. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.